Hi guys, this is Laura with Stuff I Find Interesting. That music was meant to put you in the mood. This is Elegant Funk by SZ Audio. I'm going to subscribe. I kind of dig it. And if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Laura and I just talk about stuff I find interesting. That's it. No real frills. I've had comments on my channel that said, damn, you talk for a long time. And I do. I can talk for a very, very impressive amount of time. Sometimes about seemingly nothing, but today we're going to talk about stuff that's interesting. We're going to start with just some eye candy. This is in Sri Lanka. This is a beautiful example of the caves. What do you call them? I don't. We've had this conversation before. Are they called mosques? I don't think so. Temples. Cave temples would be the appropriate term for this. Cave temples. Really lovely. This is Explosion Rocks Tolar, and in case you didn't know, in New Mexico, on November 30th, 1944, 165 500-pound bombs blew up, vaporized 500 feet of track, took out the entire town, and it sent a 1,500-pound axle crashing through the store, and it rolled out the back. Miraculously, only one person was killed, and that was due to some explosive shrapnel hitting his head. So there is a place where you can go in New Mexico where you can visit this area where this huge explosion took place that I hadn't heard about. We're going to track back, talk about some things that we've already talked about. I was cleaning up some bookmarks and I came across some stuff. We were talking about moonbows, Mom Man, Casper, mountain landscape with rainbow. I would argue that this is a moonbow. This looks like a moonbow to me. Now, if you remember, we were talking about Varanasi. Varanasi is the place where they were going to build a road through sort of this dilapidated town area where people lived or maybe didn't live. And as they demolished the buildings, they discovered that there were temples within the buildings, as many as I believe, I want to say 75, but that sounds like so many. Definitely 25 or more. But the number 75 is sticking in my head. At any rate, if you want to die, you can go to Varanasi, where the crematoriums run 24 hours a day. Over 32,000 people are burned a year in the crematoriums that are on the Varanasi. And they toss the embers into the air, and priests sing, and there's bonfires and flowers, and there's continual incense and blessings. And there are actually hotels dedicated to, if you decide you want to go to Varanasi to die. This is an example of one of them. However, they have a strict rule. If after 2 weeks you're not dead yet, you gotta go. So keep that in mind if you decide that you want to go to Varanasi. Now remember, we were talking about the Roman dodecahedrons that were unearthed, and we couldn't quite figure out what they are for, what they do, blah, blah, blah. We had a whole conversation about it. This was actually discovered over the summer, but it's now coming out and hitting the mainstream news. So here's a picture that I think I probably used. Now this one, interestingly, does not have holes, and these guys have holes. So, what does that mean exactly? And also, if we go to Indonesia, we find something similar, but much smaller, usually worn on jewelry. Well, we don't know that it was actually worn. That's how we found it. We have found it on jewelry that we presume was worn. Here's an example. This woman says this is what happens with them. So you would wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap and tuck and wrap and tuck and wrap. And what happens is you end up with a finger. You do enough of these, you end up with 5 fingers, which you can then sew together with 2 panels. So you'd have a panel, you would sew the panels together and then sew the fingers onto the panel. And the reason why there's different size holes is because there's different size fingers. these dodecahedrons, the argument is that they were found primarily in cold climates, and that's why it's conjectured that they were used for gloves because they were found in cold climates. But then there's the ones that were found in Indonesia. So this particular person says, well, what I think happens is that there's a YouTube commercial and we're gonna have to skip through that. Okay, so we could see that this person is using it to create a necklace of gold wire. I didn't show you the whole thing, but this is kind of, put a stick through it, wrappy, 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 boom. Now, necklaces like these have been found, just kind of like laying around. So we know that they exist. Perhaps this is how they were made.
Just before we get to the video that you...
Now, this gentleman, in a much more entertaining and professional manner, talks about the dodecahedron. So I think you'll find that very entertaining. It will be in the links. You can watch it. It's good. It's good stuff. This is a Reddit discussion. Generally, I find in the Reddit discussions, which is refreshing, is that there are actual scholars, people that actually know what they're talking about. You can get a great deal of information if you know how to look, what to look for, and what places to stay the heck out of to pull your information from. Because these days everything's all about information, so you want to make sure that your information is pure. Now remember, we were talking about the Kwajalein Atoll. Here is a drawing of it. Here's what it looks like. There's a military base down here. I showed you a picture. Well, this happened a couple of days ago on that very atoll that we were talking about.
Whoa! Whoa! What?
Oh, but it gets worse.
All right, you good? You good?
And here we
Jake, are you
go.
okay? Coming
Poor
in.
Jake. And there's another one. And
Get out of here!
lights out. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying, because if we go back and we look, we can see that's not what I'm looking for. What am I looking for? Gosh darn it. I did this last time. Here it is. The island that this actually took place on is Runit Island, which for some reason isn't coming up. Oh, Roy Namur. That is the island. That's the video that we just saw. This is where that where that happened. So there were people here at the Outrigger Bar and Grill having some drinks, enjoying some downtime. It's a very small place. You got to take, as much relaxation as you can. And boom, here comes this big wave. Now, the really scary part is, let's say that someone gets washed off. At a certain point, there's no more sort of beautiful lagoon-looking area. It just drops off like a cliff. And that sounds terrifying to me. Now, a few things I've learned about the area, this particular area, also this week, is that in addition to reading more about the no-fly zone from December 28th to, I think, January 3rd, because there was a radiation hazard. Like, what's that about? There is an actual sarcophagus that exists in the area on one of the atolls, a nearby atoll, not that specific atoll that I just showed you. And it's a sarcophagus, and I think there's like 20 nuclear weapons that are in it, and the sarcophagus is on it, and it's built in such a way that it's supposed to like last forever. Seawater, however, as we know, is very corrosive, and it's not going to last. It's not going to last forever. So there's some concern about that. My computer is behaving so far, so this is fantastic. I'm very happy about this. I might actually be able to I might be able to run this episode. That's kind of cool. I'm actually doing this episode because what I really want to do is drink heavily and be depressed about not having a job, but that's not very effective. So I'm going to do this. It'll put me in a better mood, and then I can go like work out or something. Here's the sarcophagus. This is where material was dredged. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that in your ear. And if we zoom out, it's the Atoll. This is the Bikini Atoll. That's where we blew up a bunch of nuclear weapons, and that's where they're talking about now, about looking at the tourism potential. Oh, the other thing I learned too is that the Kwajalein Atoll is where our space fence is. It used to be in Arkansas, and space fence is basically a radar to kind of catch what's going on out there. Is there an asteroid coming in, for example? Last time we met, I made mention of Peru and how I had spent some time in Peru. And I discovered that Peru has a lot of sites that I've never heard about. Not that you would expect anybody to hear about all the sites in the entire world, but with the proliferation of information these days, you think that you would hear more about South America, especially Peru, given the fact that it's like one of the oldest, if not, well, it's not the oldest, but there are places in the world where society got very ancient and very advanced and then disappeared, right? Mayans, Aztecs, Peru, the Olmecs, in Ukraine. There were several important people, cultures that have come and gone. So this picture in particular caught my eye. If I saw that picture, I don't know that I would guess Peru. I do not believe this is a house. To me, it looks more like you would put grain in it. Here is a great picture of another area, and I'm just imagining myself like running up and down the stairs with like my little water jug, running down, filling it up, running back up the stairs. It's absolutely stunning. Have any of you ever been to Peru? Here's something else. This is Chan Chan. We can see this is definitely made by a different hand than Machu Picchu. It has a different feel to it. You can see the way that these buildings were constructed is different. Here's another example. This is Caral Soup, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. Caral Soupe, perhaps. The E doesn't have a little thingy over it, so I'm not really sure about that. But this reminds us of the astrological or astronomical complex in India. Do you know which one I mean? We're going to look it up. But it has the same kind of thing. It has those platforms going on. Here we go. This is a cool picture, but it doesn't really show anything. That doesn't show anything either. Oh, there we go. Wait, no. It's crazy how you have to go to other places to see some of these photos. Okay, we're moving on. Platforms. Last episode we talked about Mayans and the Mayan platform that went on for a mile and was 30 to 55 feet tall, which is incredibly impressive. So there's a thing for platforms. This is another area in Peru that looks different than the other two examples. Actually, the other three examples. This is probably done by a completely different hand. So it's like a lasagna, if you will, of culture. If you're really interested in sort of teasing out who, what, where, I got you covered. This is a very long sort of when was this? Written in 1922 by Hiram Bingham. wrote about his travels through South America and Peru, which you might find interesting. Now, before we start to move on, there's another area in Peru. There are 6,000 man-made holes across the top of a mountain, and nobody knows exactly who carved these holes. They're not sure which culture did it or why they were created. It's speculated that perhaps food was put in them. Maybe it was for collecting water. Nobody knows. Another article which will be in the links for you. The first picture of Machu Picchu. Could you imagine? You hear about this mythical place. You're an archaeologist. Nobody believes. I mean, the natives know it's there, right? But your peers, your archaeological peers, they're like, ha, 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 ha. And you hike and you hike and you hike and you hike and you come to this. Your mind would just be absolutely, completely blown. So this article just goes into the general sort of a refresher on Machu Picchu in case you forgot. I know I forgot. Historians believe that it was constructed in the 1450s. However, I'm not sure when this article was written. It is thought that perhaps there's another more ancient culture underneath, so that it was built and then it was built upon. Much like the pyramids of Egypt, there is a theory that is what happened there also. This is the guy who discovered Machu Picchu, and he looks like the kind of guy who would discover Machu Picchu. Here's his crew. We have some photos. The photography is actually pretty impressive considering, I mean, they had to carry this equipment up a goddamn mountain. Here's an article about whether or not we've been calling Machu Picchu the wrong thing, that perhaps that's not the name and it should be called something else, and that there's another Machu Picchu. And then there's another group of peoples that say, is Machu Picchu the lost city of the Incas? It's definitely a lost city. This picture takes my breath away just a little. I would imagine that it took his breath away also. Formation of the processes of layer 6A2 of the Donggu Tuo site in the Nihuan Basin PDF. Ah, yes. In China, a 45,000-year-old site has been discovered. 45,000-year-old site. So now China's saying, well, wait a minute, maybe the first peoples weren't out of Africa. Maybe they weren't out of Turkey or India. Maybe they weren't out of Ukraine. Maybe they were out of China. This is the competitive part of archaeology. Everybody wants their peoples to be the first that were advanced, the first that invented math, the first that invented writing. And the needle of humanity keeps getting pushed back as our methods as our technology gets better and better and better. Eventually, I will be able to pick up some dirt, stick it in a little machine, and it'll be like boop, 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 and it'll give us all kinds of really cool information about that spot. So this is the academic backup to the 45,000-year-old site, which I actually have on episode 52, but this sneaky little one got left behind. The Nihuan site, which is located in Yanquan County in North China's Hebei province, has become one of the most important regions, challenging the theory that considers Africa as the origin of mankind. That's a big deal. Think back to when you were in school with your textbooks. Beautiful yet forbidden, we're going to change the subject. Beautiful yet forbidden places in India where tourists are not allowed. This is the North Sentinel Islands. That's where the peoples that live there are left completely alone. I think those are the ones that shot up that guy who said he was going to bring them God or Jesus, and then got in a boat and started canoeing towards the island, and then they shot him full of arrows, and then nobody knows what they did with his body. Aksai Chin Ladakh. Now, you don't often think about it, but there's an area where, is it this? Yeah, there's like areas where like China and India and like, connect, and areas where there's a place, I don't know if I have it on this one or the next one. I'll be able to tell you in a minute. No, not on this one. But you can see Russia, China, and North Korea all at the same time. There's like this bridge, and you can turn and you can see each place. So that's on the next one. You have something to look forward to. This is just a resource, something for you to go to if you are into manuscripts. This is Zare's Facsimiles. And you can kind of scroll through some of their catalog. The way they have things pictured is they don't really have like scans. It's more like pictures of it. Like someone stood and went. When they do scans of medieval texts, they have actual machines that they use, and then somebody with archival gloves would take it and place it on the scanner, and then bring the cover down, then it would scan it. So the pictures, I kind of like them when they're scanned, because then you can see the fine detail. But this site is kind of cool too. Another interesting site I found with pictures, Odessa, Ukraine. So this is old Odessa. Look at how glamorous she is with the bustle. I don't actually need a bustle. My ass looks like that without one. I'm joking. It's not quite that bad. But it's close, and it's getting worse if I don't get a job soon. Oh my God, guys, I need a job. Okay, Odessa. Getting back to Odessa. So there is a ton of information. We look down here, family portraits. Let's look at Zechariah. Speaking of Zechariah, today I discovered that my great grandfather's name was Zebulon, and his son's name was Titus. And I found proof today that I am a daughter of the American Revolution, because there's people that do genealogy as a hobby, so I can just connect where my relative intersects with whatever research they've done and go, oh, look, there it is. Uh-oh, what happened? What did I do? These are pictures of, let's guess. I think this is Tibet. Himalayas and High Asia. More pictures for you to look at. I might have even shared this already, because I find it so cool. Like these guys are just going through the snow, straight up the mountains. Look, the horse is having a hard time. They're not. They're like, come on, dude. Get up the mountain. What's wrong with you? What's next? I don't remember, actually. So there was, I'm very much into art. There was an art exhibition high up in the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm not sure which is actually. I would assume they're both probably correct, depending on where you are, but there's probably one that's more correct. But the artwork that I found most intriguing is this person knitted a whole ass blanket and draped it across the top of this specific mountain. So they had to hike up there with all this fabric and lay it out. At that point, it's almost like performance art. It's like Werner Herzog when he carried the steamer ship up over the mountains in the tropics. You guys know what I'm talking about. Distilling the life, a North Korean escapee takes her home brews out of the shadows. Oh my God. It's raining outside. I guess that's where that Freudian slip came from. I have no idea. Kim Sung-hai learned the North's art of alcohol in secret, and now she's turning it into a business in the South. Growing up in North Korea, She learned the art of brewing liquor at home away from the watchful eyes. Her grandmother worked without special equipment. She would stir the fermented rice with her hands to gauge the process, and based on the feel, she would decide whether to lower the temperature, add ingredients, or give it a few more days to ferment. She never explained the process directly to me, but I learned by looking over her shoulder. So this woman was raised in North Korea. And when her husband died suddenly in an accident, she decided to flee the country with her 2-year-old daughter to seek a better life. She crossed the frigid Tumen River with her child on her shoulders, seeking to keep her wet when wading through the icy waters. This is not an area that's tropical. And there's barbed wire fences. And then she had to go to China, to Vietnam, to Cambodia, where she got to the South Korean embassy. Then she got readjusted into South Korea. So what a journey. Could you imagine being that woman's child? You complain about something, she's like, I escaped from one of the hardest places to escape from in the world with you on my shoulders. So this woman's kind of a hero. She started to brew the alcohol that she learned as a child. And now she's making a living out of it. It's almost like a science. She's in this beautiful, pristine lab-like area. And they now produce thousands of bottles of alcohol each year. And they sell their product in over 30 stores. But she has goals. She thinks about her home down and the people that she left behind. But what a hero, right? What a great woman. The Gold Frontier. Oh, this is what I was thinking of. This is where I was saying you could see North Korea, Russia, and China. There's the Tumen River, and that's actually why I saved this, so I could show you. Here's some women doing some laundry on the frozen Tumen River. So I think this is the Tumen River right here. See where my little hand is? I think that's the Tumen River. It's crazy to think about. A great article. I'm leaving it more for you to read than to go over it completely. I learned a cool term this week, and that is vernacular architecture. Vernacular architecture is using items that are in your area to build your structures. For example, we have the root bridges. Why you know scroll? Ain't no scroll. Okay, so I'm going to leave that because I'm starting to get long-winded. But there are architectural techniques here that you might not be familiar with, or that you might not have ever seen. And you might be, oh, wow, that's cool. Hopefully you think that's cool. That's the whole point of me doing this, is so that people think it's cool. Now we're heading into conspiracy land before we wrap it up. We're almost at the end. Now, have you heard about the universal law of one? The universal law of one says that you, me, the microphone, this glass of water, it's all connected. It's all one. It's all one organism experiencing itself through the lens of different things, beings, what have you. That is the law of divine oneness. So this is kind of a little bit woo, sort of new agey. It says your inner environment is your inner energy. Everything is connected. If you're in a bad mood, it affects people around you. Everything is intertwined, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, you can't read this story. I'm sorry. We're not going to include that one in the links. You know what? It wasn't that good anyway. But it does bring me up to the law of one. This is a hollow fractal. This is the Planck vacuum equation. This is the nuts and bolts of the science to the law of one, because there's the woo-woo part, like, oh, we're all one, whatever. But there's actual math that supports this. Now, I saw something interesting today. I can't remember, I think it was Eric Weinstein. I think you'd probably say it Weinstein, Eric Weinstein. Anyway, he's a mathematician. And he says that the math that we're doing these days is based on imaginary worlds or templates, not actual physics. So I'm not sure where the Planck equation fits in with his mentality. I'll share him next time. He's an interesting character. I never watch anything, and I watched like 3 talks that he gave because I just found it so endlessly, completely fascinating. Reminds me of the notion that all electrons everywhere are actually the same electron. So we could take this further beyond universal law of one into the one electron theory. The idea here is that every electron in the universe is the same exact electron that is traveling back and forth in time. Electron goes forward in time from the Big Bang up to the end of the universe, does a 180 and travels backward through time to the Big Bang. Repeat this process until every electron is accounted for. The theory suggests that the direction of spin in electrons is a reflection of whether it is going forward or backward through time. I also think there is some explanation about quantum entanglement that goes along with this, but I don't recall. Fascinating, right? It also sounds like a trap. We go forwards and then we go backwards, if you believe this. Somebody said, you know what? I'm going to ask AI what they think of this, because AI is going to tell me. But this person gets like way out there. This one talks about cymatic plasmonoid. So cymatic plasmonoid is the multiversal organism theory, which is a little different than the universal law of one or the one electron theory. This is where I got lost. I'm going to be honest with you. This is where I completely lost it. But if you want your mind blown, this is a crazy thing to read. And it sort of presupposes that all of Earth, all of people, all of us, that we're sort of like the slime mold of our little area of the world, I think. Here's another article. The Unified Space Memory Network, from Cosmogenesis to Consciousness. This tries to wrap this in with consciousness and how we process things. I don't know if they talk about the theory of relativity, how that fits into it, but it tries to rationalize consciousness. Where does it come from? How does it exist? And if there is a unified, is there a unified theory of consciousness? Is there a unified theory of humanity? Is there a unified theory of the universe? It gets really out there, but it's a lot of fun. Now we're going to get woo-woo again. There is someone who was it? Let me see. There was a group of people, and I wish I had studied this better. There's a group of people that channeled this being called Ra. Almost like the other guy we talked about last time who channeled that being and said he was a master. So there was Don Elkins, a professor of physics and UFO investigator, was studying stuff. And then there was this Ra, this being, spoke through a woman named Carla Ruckert. And Ra states that they are a 6th density social memory complex that formed on Venus about 2.6 billion years ago. Ra says that they are the humble messengers of the law of one, and that they previously tried to spread this message in Egypt with mixed results. This goes way into it, way more than I'm going to go into it. But think about this. I mean, is it true? Do we think we're really channeling a being called Ra? Do you think that's a possibility? There's stranger things, right? But it's the 6th density social memory complex that really kind of caught my interest. And if we pretend we're writing a science fiction novel and we use that as the plot device, what that means is that the entire society formed into this one thing. So it's every person, everything on that planet Venus, that was part of Ra's society is now within Ra. And Ra is not existing on this plane. Ra exists on the 6th, at or on. I don't actually know which preposition you would use for that correctly. I'll have to ask an English teacher, but that's That's that. Now, there is a broadcast that took place in 1977.
In the late afternoon of November 26, 1977, a strange event took place that would be remembered as one of the most unusual broadcast interruptions in television history. Known as the Southern Television Hijacking, it was an incident that left viewers in southern England both confused and a little frightened.
Want to know more? You have to go to the links and go to the timeline protectors. I watched basically every video that this guy has. Can you tell I'm unemployed? But it's good stuff. I like the way he presents stuff. It's no frills like me, but it's better. All these people are better. It's fine. I'm okay with it. This is Himalayan. Is this Himalayan? What is this? I think this might just be costumes. I'm not sure why I went here, but no matter what, this is always a fun thing to poke through. This is a hair ornament. Look, there's a comb. Why can't I make it bigger? Due to copyright issues, sometimes there are things that you can make really large, and you can sort of poke around with it, and other things you can't. You can't do that. Where did he go? This is... See, like this guy, I can enlarge, and we can go so far as to look at his teeth. This is a totally derpy looking cat, but it's not actually a cat. This is a helmet, which is sort of badass. I found the coolest thing this week, and it's period photos of people with ethnographic arms. That sounds like a mouthful, but basically it's a bunch of people who are really into arms, swords, guns, knives, and they share photos. And there's some historical photos in here that I hadn't seen before, because you can also see like what's going on in the background. It's not just... You'll see. I'm going to play some music. This is Overwork Winter. And I'm just going to scroll for a little bit. I have a trumpet. Where is my trumpet? What did I do with my trumpet? I have a trumpet just like that. I don't know where I put it. Oh, I put it back up. Never mind. That guy's like... Alright, let me get to some other parts of the world. Look at that. What happened to his pants? Look at this. Absolutely amazing. These pictures just blew my mind. Okay, well. Okay, guys, we've come to the end. I would like to wish all of you a very good rest of the week, full of good things, positive energy. Wish me luck as I continue my job search, which is soul-sucking and joyless. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Stuff I Find Interesting. Till next time.